Good morning, my dear students. Welcome back to the class on history. The previous class we have been discussing about the First World War, and I had explained to you two important causes that you need to prepare for your exam. The first one was nationalism and imperialism, and second, the division of Europe. I hope you are clear with those two causes. Today we are going to learn about what were the results of the First World War. There is one topic that you are going to learn, that is the Treaty of Versailles. Treaty of Versailles. It is with this particular Treaty of Versailles that the First World War came to an end. That happened in the 1919, June 28th. So the First World War came to an end with the Treaty of Versailles that happened in 1919, June 28th. The Paris conference that happened in Paris, and that's known as the Treaty of Versailles. So there are three important people who took up the initiative for this particular Treaty of Versailles. The first one was Woodrow Wilson, the President of America, USA. Second was Lloyd George, who is the Prime Minister of Britain. And third one was George Clemenceau, the Prime Minister of France. So this is of USA, this is Britain, and George Clemenceau was the Prime Minister of France. So these are the three people who took the initiative for this particular Treaty of Versailles that happened in 1919, June 28th. Now, what was the content of this particular Treaty of Versailles? So the most important thing that you need to remember is that the victorious countries, all the victorious countries blamed Germany as the reason for the First World War. So Germany was accused for beginning the First World War. So there are various points that you need to remember under this particular heading called the content of the Treaty of Versailles. The first one, Germany was accused, or Germany was found as the guilty of aggression. So everyone or all the countries began to blame Germany as guilty of aggression. That's the first point that you need to remember. Second, Germany had to pay for the loss and damages. It means Germany had to pay a huge amount of money for the loss and damages, and they had to pay almost $33 billion. So the first reason was that Germany was found guilty of aggression. So Germany had to pay for the loss and damages, and they had to pay $33 billion. Third one, the places in Germany like Rhine Valley, this particular valley was to be demilitarized. It means military will not be there in this particular Rhine Valley, and West Rhine was to be occupied by the Allied troops for 15 years. So the Rhine Valley and the West Rhine is to be occupied by the Allied troops for 15 years, which means for 15 years this particular place, this particular West Rhine will be controlled by the Allied troops, and Rhine Valley will be demilitarized. And the next point is that Alsace-Lorraine was given to France, a place that was under Germany, and Eupen-Malmedy was given to Belgium, and Schleswig was given to Denmark, which means the places of Germany were given to the victorious countries. And Germany, the parts of pre-war territory, the places that were occupied by Germany were given to Denmark, Poland, Belgium, France, and Czechoslovakia. And the coal mines of Saar were given to France for 15 years, and it will be governed by League of Nations. So the coal mines of Saar were given to France for 15 years, and it will be governed by the League of Nations. And the colonies of Germany had various colonies, and the colonies of Germany were given to Britain, Belgium, South Africa, and Portugal. Next point, German colonies in Pacific and China were given to Japan. The colonies that Germany had in Pacific area and China were given to Japan. And German army was reduced to 1 lakh soldiers. Navy was 15,000, 24 ships, and there was ban on air force and submariners. So the army was reduced to 1 lakh. Navy was reduced to 15,000, and with the 24 ships, there was ban on air force and submariners. And with this particular Treaty of Versailles, the complete freedom was given to the following places like Belgium, Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Yugoslavia. And Covenant of League of Nations was added to the Treaty of Versailles. These are the points that were included in the Treaty of Versailles. The most important thing that you need to remember is that Germany was accused for the aggression. All the countries began to blame Germany, and Germany was the country that faced humiliation. Germany was the country that faced the huge amount of loss because they lost the colonies. Their places were taken by the Allied forces, and they had to pay huge amount of money for the loss and the damages. So Germany was completely accused of Germany was found guilty of the aggression. That's the first point. Germany was found guilty of aggression. Second, Germany had to pay huge amount of money for the loss and damages, and they had to pay $33 billion. The Rhine Valley was demilitarized, and West Rhine was to be occupied by the Allied troops. I hope you remember the countries that will form the Allied troops, like France, Russia, and England. They will be occupying the West Rhine for 15 years. Alaska and Lorraine was given to France. European Demandment was given to Belgium. Schleswig was given to Denmark. And the parts of pre-war territory that were occupied by Germany were given to Denmark, Poland, Belgium, France, and Czechoslovakia. And the coal mines of Saar were given to France for 15 years, and this particular place will be governed by the League of Nations. And the colonies of Germany were given to Britain, Belgium, South Africa, and Portugal. And German colonies in Pacific and China were given to Japan. A German army was reduced to 1 lakh, navy to 50,000, and with 24 ships. And there was ban on air force and submariners. And complete freedom was given to Belgium, Poland, Czechoslovakia, and Yugoslavia. And the Covenant of League of Nations was added to the Treaty of Versailles. So these are the things that you need to remember about the topic called the results of the war, and that is the Treaty of Versailles, with which the First World War came to an end. It happened on 28th June 1919. And those are the three important people: Woodrow Wilson, Lloyd George, and John Clemquot, the Prime Minister of France. These are three people who took the initiative for this particular Treaty of Versailles. I hope you are clear with it now. Now let's move on to the next topic, that is, what are the similarities between the ideologies of Nazism and Fascism? So after the First World War, there emerged, or they began something called the concept of Nazism in Germany and Fascism in Italy. These are the two ideologies that emerged after the First World War. And let's see what are the similarities. What are the similarities between the ideologies of Nazism and Fascism? The first point that you need to remember is they have faith in totalitarian rule. Totalitarian rule means there will be one ruler who will decide everything in the place. Totalitarian rule. One ruler who decides everything. That is same with the Nazism and fascism. Germany have got Italy. In Germany we have got Hitler, and in Italy we have got Mussolini, who brought up the concept of a totalitarian rule. One person will have complete control over everything in the territory. Second, they do not regard democratic political system, which means they both Nazism and fascism are against democratic political system. They do not like democracy. Third one, they hold state as supreme authority, and for the sake of state, you can suppress, which means for the sake of the state country, they can stop your fundamental rights and the freedom of an individual. Which means, the particular, if it is a totalitarian rule, what happens is that there the priority or the importance is given to the state and not for the individuals. Which means the freedom of the individual can be neglected for the sake of the state. What comes first is your state, and individuals become secondary. That's what the term called they hold state as supreme, and they suppress the fundamental rights and the freedom of an individual. Which means for them, what comes first is the state, second is the individual. And next one, they uphold, which means they promote one party, one leader. Which means in a totalitarian rule, there is only one party and there will be only one leader. And they believe in aggressive nationalism and imperialism. Aggressive nationalism means you love your country and you hate the other country. Imperialism means it is a policy by which a powerful nation controls another country. So they believed in aggressive nationalism and imperialism. And they believed war as the instrument, war as the means for furthering your national interest. To develop your national interest, what is the instrument that you have? War is the instrument for developing your national interest. The last one, they uphold, which means they give importance to intensely nationalistic, anti-communist, anti-democratic rule. Which means they have got an aggressive nationalism, that is intensely nationalistic, anti-communist, against communism and against democratic. So these are the similarities between the ideologies of Nazism and fascism. Nazism began in Germany under Hitler. Fascism began in Italy under Mussolini. The first one, they both believe in a totalitarian rule by a single person, and they are against democratic political system, and they uphold state as a supreme authority, and for the sake of the state you can suppress, you can stop the fundamental rights and the freedom of individuals. And they uphold one party, one leader. And they believe in aggressive nationalism and imperialism. And they believed war as the instrument for developing or for the growth of your national interest. And they were against, or they uphold, intensely nationalistic, anti-communist and anti-democratic rule. So these are the similarities that you need to remember with regard to Nazism and fascism. So these are the two chapters that you need to cover. The first one, the First World War. Second is the rise of dictatorship that happened in Italy and in Germany. Okay. Now we want to next chapter that we have the Second World War. We will see the different causes of it. So kindly understand these two terms very clearly: Nazism, fascism, and the Treaty of Versailles, and what happened to Germany after the First World War. Hope you are clear with it. Kindly go through the video once again along with the notes. Complete the notes, because your exams will be coming in the next month. So try to complete the notes as early as possible. Thank you.